When you come up with a new idea, you have a decision to make. Licensing? Venturing? Bootstrapping? Which one is right for you? Hey, it's Don Skaggs again with Empowered Inventing TV, where we try to help you help other people by taking your great innovation, the right opportunity, mixing that with sound wisdom so you can turn them into real things like products and businesses. Now, today I want to talk to you about your idea for a product or a business. Now, one of the first things that you need to think about is, do I license, do I venture, or do I bootstrap? Which one's going to be the right one for you? And that's something to think through very carefully. Now, you're not necessarily married to that direction, that trajectory when you decide, but you do have to kind of pick a direction to point your energy to kind of see what's going to work for you. So what is the difference between licensing versus venturing versus bootstrapping, you say? Well, I'm gonna kind of go over those a little bit. So licensing is pretty straightforward. You put your idea into a visual form. Maybe it's writing it out. Maybe it's a drawing, a 2D drawing. Maybe it's a 3D drawing. Maybe it's a prototype. And you pitch it to companies for a licensing deal. So in other words, they're going to take your idea, your invention for a product, and they're going to make it, they're going to build it, and they're going to sell it. And then for whatever money they make, they are going to send you a nice little check a quarter. It's probably the most hands-off way to make a product successful in the marketplace, because somebody else is doing it and they're giving you a percentage of that amount for basically just coming up with the idea. And now there's a lot of really good ways to learn this. Now I will say this, that licensing is kind of not my wheelhouse. I have worked with a lot of inventors that have successfully licensed. I know a lot of inventors that have successfully licensed. I've seen a lot of those. It can be done, but it is not that Shark Tank throw the keys mentality that a lot of people might assume that it is. It just like every single one of these, they all require you to be focused and to work on it and to work it, and you get out of it what you put into it. So, there's a great book out there I highly recommend, One Simple Idea, written by my good friend Stephen Key. And there's a lot of really good resources out there. If you've seen a lot of our speakers that are licensing oriented, we've had at KY Inventors, a lot of our online meetings at kyinventors.org. You can find out about those, by the way. But a lot of our speakers are good licensing people, and they know about licensing, and they but for me, it's to me the downside, and if there is any really downside to it, and there's not really huge downsides to any of these. None of these are good. None of these are bad. But for me, you're selling an idea. And selling an idea is a learned skill that you have to learn. You have to learn how to sell the idea. So lots of people do that very well. I think it has to be a very good sales job, because it's not a product in the marketplace, so you have to get them to gain their trust. They have to put their trust in you to put it to work. And so again, none of these are easy. But you have to put out the work if you really want to be successful. It's not this, I'm going to email 3 companies and I'll immediately be a millionaire. No, it's not how any of these work. And by the way, if you think that, you need to watch more videos like this, because that is not how the world really works. But it's a learned skill. and it can be done. And you know what? When you're successful with it, guess what? You're kind of done. You're ready to go do something else, and they're just sending you a nice check every quarter, a royalty check for whatever they successfully sell. So licensing can be a very, very lucrative way to go about doing this. So that's definitely one option. Another option is what some people have termed as venturing. And I've seen some people will use this kind of in a generically use case, or you know, like everything that's not licensing is venturing. And personally, I think it's a little more granular than that. Venturing, to me, I think of it as raising money for or using a lot of money for starting a business. Sometimes it's getting investors, sometimes it's getting a loan, sometimes it's you know, it's I guess it's what could be considered the traditional business startup of the using capital, either your own or other people's money, friends and family. And I've got a lot of videos on how that can go really bad really fast, and why sometimes that is just not a good idea at all. But raising money just to get an idea off the ground can be a challenge. A lot of you're convincing people to trust you and your idea and its ability to make it happen, to make it grow, and to give them a return, or what they call an ROI, a return on investment, a return on their investment, that they're investing and trusting in you. So you know, there's certainly a lot of successful companies that's done that. Again, kind of not my wheelhouse. The third one, which is my go-to, is called bootstrapping. And if you've watched many of these videos, you know I am a big proponent of what I call bootstrapping. And to me, bootstrapping is very different than licensing. It's very different than venturing. Bootstrapping, it's my go-to. It's what I have done personally, and it is of course, the best one from my perspective. But again, none of these are bad options. I've seen inventors do very well with any of these. But I like bootstrapping, and I'll tell you why. This is where you use little of your own resources and your own ingenuity to start something from scratch. And you're building a product, you're building a business, and you're turning it into something. And you're taking the revenue and you're pouring it back. You're taking the revenue and the profits and you're pouring that back into the company to grow it and grow. Now, will it grow slower than if you start with a whole bunch of money in the beginning? Possibly. If you're doing all the right things, and there's another caveat to that I'm going to talk about in a second. But yeah, is it slower than some other processes? Yeah, but number one, it's going to force you to make your mistakes and learn from those mistakes at the lowest possible cost. You know, if you start out with a lot of money, and again, I talk about this a lot, and this is very, very important. If you start out with too much money in the beginning, it can get in the way, because you're going to make the most mistakes in the beginning, and the most of those mistakes are going to be either very expensive mistakes if you have a lot of money, because you're going to say, oh yeah, this is going to work, I just know it, and you're going to spend a lot more of the money that you have because you've got more money in the beginning, some other people's money. And you know, nothing hurts worse than getting money from friends and family and it not working out. You know, you can have all kinds of conversations with them, but still the turkey does not taste the same at Thanksgiving. Trust me. So if you use your own resources and you start from scratch, it's going to force you to make these mistakes, like I said, at a much lower cost. And if you build and grow, guess what? In the end, most of it belongs to you. So now again, in licensing, you're getting the money. It's really not, you're not, you know, investing anything. And that's a good track too. But again, I like bootstrapping because I've done it and I know it, and I just prefer it myself. But you can build it and grow it. Most of it's yours at the end. You build a revenue stream for yourself that's kind of permanent as long as you have the company, as long as it's going all right. And you provide a revenue stream for all the people that you hire. And you have, when you sell it, guess what? You get the money. And so that's why I like that. Now there's a fourth one I'm going to throw in here that is sort of a fourth one, but not. And that's what I would call a hybrid approach. And that's where you're doing maybe a little of each. Maybe you're keeping that licensing idea open. You're keeping that, you're kind of focusing maybe on the bootstrapping a little more. It's like we're gonna pretend we have to do all this ourselves, and you get it up and you get it going and you get some market validation, and then you go to a company and say, hey, look, we're selling these and it's going really well. We've already tested it here, and here, and it's I mean, look at all these that we're selling. How would you like to have? All of a sudden, it takes the risk out of their mind. And you could just turn it into a licensing thing. Either partial licensing, still sell it yourself. I have done that with distributorships. Now that's where we still made it, we still sold it, but we would sell to distributors who would resell it. The difference between that and a licensing agreement is licensings, they do it all. They're like building it, selling it. They decide what color it needs to be and how it needs to be packaged and all of that. And sometimes that, again, that could be a very good thing. So a hybrid approach could really be helpful. And you're not married, like I said before, you're not married to any of these. You might get so far into one and say, hey, you know what, maybe I do want a license. Oh no, maybe I do want to make these. I picked a really good scalable product, which by the way I highly recommend. And I could sell 100 of these, and then I could take money from that, and then I could make 1,000 of these, and then I could sell those, and then I could and kind of turn it into something like that. Or you could go the venturing route, or you could get to a point where you say, okay, if we really, really want to grow, now maybe we have to raise some money. Maybe we have to get some investment. And that's a possibility too. Again, not my wheelhouse. It's my wheelhouse. I understand all this stuff, but it's not what I did. I like bootstrapping. I like selling it at the end, and guess what? It belongs to you. I like building a legacy, things like that. So anyway, what direction do you lean into? How are you going to decide how you're going to do this? What's your next step for that? If you want to, mention it in the comments. Would love to hear back from you. And if you're looking for more information, watch for the upcoming Empowered Inventing Academy course called Building a Business Around My Idea. And you'll find that at empoweredinventing.com. Just go there, sign up, ask for that course by name, and we will alert you and let you know as soon as it's made available. Again, I'm Don Skaggs. This is Empowered Inventing TV. Like, subscribe, help us to build our tribe, and I'll look to see you at the next meeting, workshop, maybe one of those online courses, or on the next video.